However, in order to perform any complex task, there's a key point that the system must have access to an information store. In this case, the information is just that of how the feedback must be applied. But for a more complicated living system, such as a human being or animal, it must have a much larger information store. And the question is, what does this information store consist of? Well, the usual answer is that there are two ways in which the information is stored. First of all, essentially, the part which stores the information acquired before birth, and that's in the genes, in a particular molecule, DNA, chemical composition of the DNA gives all the genetic information. Besides that, in any system which can learn, there's a nervous system or in more familiar terms, the brain, which can learn through life, from experience. Now, this information that's stored by these two mechanisms, the genes and the nervous system, these are what constitutes the intelligence of a living system. Now the question is, how does this intelligence come about? Because we know farther back in evolution, systems weren't as intelligent. In the same way, a child hasn't got the same capability as an adult. There must be some directive process which produces the intelligence. And the answers normally given are, in the case of evolution through the genes, what happens in the millions of years back in the past, that what causes intelligence to develop is the process of natural selection or survival of the fittest. The mechanism is that what's called mutations occur, and that the genes which specify behavior tend to change with time. And since there's this variation in behavior, certain species will be more efficient than others, or at least certain variations within a species will be more able to cope with circumstances than others, and they will survive better to produce, or have a greater chance of surviving to produce the next generation, and hence we'll get a gradual drift or increase in intelligence. So a mechanism of survival of the fittest is the way in which intelligence increases throughout evolution. Now, learning during life is a system which was talked about in an earlier lecture, that of reinforcement, and the basis of that essentially is that an action which is reinforced essentially is something that's regarded as good by the animal tends to be repeated, whereas an action which leads to something which is regarded as bad by the organism tends not to be repeated. In this way, the organism or animal gradually selects behavior patterns which are most likely to lead to something it likes. And this is the way in which learning is supposed to occur, according to the psychologists. Well, now I want to go on to discuss possible other evolutionary mechanisms which are suggested by SCI principles. And this is essentially the idea that evolution may occur by knowing a direction in which to go. So the hypothesis we want to look at is whether evolution may not be totally random in the sense of random genetic changes, say, but is it possible that evolution may be to some extent prescribed in advance? And the main point I want to make at this stage is that one can conceive of a mechanism in which this can occur, in which it could occur. And this is in fact just the same mechanism as I put it on the board here earlier for the way a missile finds its target. We can imagine in principle that evolution knows the goal of the next stage. Any particular step of evolution knows the goal of that stage in evolution. And we can see that if we have some feedback mechanism, let's suppose some mechanism is occurring which can cause mutations so that the organism will behave in a slightly different direction in its own generation or in later generations. Then we can imagine that if the information about the goal of the next step is available, there may be some feedback system which selects those mechanisms which are correct for that evolution, and that the evolution is not totally random. So it seems to me that it's not at all contradictory to suppose that some such mechanism can exist to cause evolution to tend to go in a certain direction. Now you might ask why it should take a certain time for evolution to occur, and I think this is not a particularly difficult problem. The answer could be just the same as that of a child growing up. Obviously a child takes a certain amount of time to learn just because of the limitations imposed by the laws of physics. In the same way, even if there is a tendency for evolution to occur in a particular direction, laws of physics are going to stop are going to prevent it taking too fast. If it went too fast, things would probably get out of balance, and they must occur slowly so that the information can be incorporated into the genetic structure in the right way. Well, now I want to talk about how this directional information might be included in physics at a basic level. And here I'll be coming to the kind of ideas which Maharishi has brought up in conjunction with Larry Domash. And this is in connection with the structure of what I like to call the vacuum state of the mind, because I'm not sure whether it's exactly the same as the vacuum state we deal with in physics. But the argument would, for considering the way the mind behaves as something which might direct evolution, is simply that we know that the mind acts in an intelligent way. When we use our own minds, the result is to act in a somewhat more intelligent way than if we just acted at random. So we expect the mind to be the source of intelligence. And we'd like to know how the mind could be a source of intelligence. And the way you're probably familiar with is using the technique of TM to make the mind completely empty or clear of all thoughts, and then observe what happens as activity develops in the mind.